It's good evening, Lisa Louise Cook. Welcome to Yellow Shelf.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Lisa, you have a really interesting podcast show, and I listened for a long time, and then I flicked you a message and said, "Hey, would you come on and share your show?" You've been doing this an awful long time. Congratulations on your podcast, Genealogy Gems. Tell us all about it.
Yes, I started Genealogy Gems back when podcasts weren't cool. It was 2007.
Yeah.
In fact, next month we're going to be publishing our 300th episode. We do it on a monthly basis. And yeah, been doing it for, I don't know, 17, 18 years. I started it because I found some really cool things while I was doing my own genealogy research. And it dawned on me that I needed a big bulletin board. I mean, a really big bulletin board to go pin that up there and share it with other people. And kind of having a theater background, when I got an iPod from my kids for my birthday, podcasts had been invented about a year and a half prior. And I found a podcast on how to make a podcast, and I found out they were free. And I just said, there's my bulletin board. I've got to get out here and talk to people. And I'm not too afraid to do that. So I just started sharing what I found in my own research. And so my my kind of motto is that this show is all about great information
Mm,
and inspiration to do what you're doing and innovation. I
yeah.
try to find things that are a little bit more outside the classic genealogical research box and, dig into some tech tools and other things.
Yeah, and you kind of skimmed over it, but you're just about to hit 300 episodes. That is outstanding. And your topics and guests are interesting. And even in recent episodes, you're so relevant around AI in this space. Like there's so much good stuff that you don't know what you don't know until you listen.
That's exactly it. And in fact, I have a premium membership on my website. So people who enjoy the show become members. And there's another 300 episodes that are just for premium members as a premium
Yeah.
podcast. And I have had really fortunate to have a lot of really interesting people on the show. I've had Lisa Kudrow, who was starred on Friends, and she produced the Who Do You Think You Are television series, which is all about genealogy. Henry Louis Gates has been on the show, Rosie O'Donnell. We've had a lot of people who have at some point dabbled themselves
Mm.
or been producing some really interesting content around genealogy. And um, being kind of a tech person, like when I was a kid, I was working at, I don't know if they have Radio Shack in Australia, but Radio Shack was kind of the electronics store in the US
Yeah.
when I was a teenager. And I was there when they brought the first computer in, the TRS 80. And so it was perfect timing. I wasn't afraid of it, and I
Yeah.
just kind of jumped in. And so I've always been interested in
Yeah.
kind of the newest cutting edge technologies. So when Google came along, I became the expert in Google. I wrote a book about it, The
Yeah.
Genealogist Google Toolbox, to help people because most genealogists were in the academic space. They were
Yeah.
strictly doing it the research paper way and the way it's always been done academically. And I'm all for great methodology,
Yeah.
but we got to bring some of these new innovative tools in, and it's been exploding with
Yeah.
AI. So it's been an exciting ride and continues to be.
Yeah. And um, Lisa, you kind of mentioned a theatre background. Do you want to tell us about that? Like, I'd just be curious about you and your journey.
Well, I was always the kid in grade school
Yeah.
who was willing to raise their hand and, get up and try out for plays and stuff. At the same time, I was the only 8-year-old in school using her allowance to buy death certificates because I was doing family history.
Yeah.
So I did theater all through high school. I majored in it in college and was in a communications program. And then I ended up doing a lot of little theater.
Yes.
And actually, back in 2005, just before I did this show, my family and I starred in an 8-part television series here in the United States, kind of when reality TV was brand new,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And everybody thought that it was real. So we had this amazing experience. And what was interesting about it was I did it because I thought it was going to help me bring history and genealogy to the masses. It didn't quite turn out that way, but I got introduced to
Yes.
all these amazing producers, directors, sound men, light men. I learned everything in that filming experience that I needed to know to be able to do an audio podcast and now a video podcast and YouTube and everything else. So,
Yeah.
everything works out for good. And it was a great experience.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you for sharing that. It just sounds like, yeah, everything's part of your journey. Um, and Lisa, what I'm hearing is you've always been curious. So there's always this curiosity no matter what you kind of dive into. Lisa, people will be watching this interview around the world on YouTube or listening. If they're curious about connecting with you and the podcast, I know you've got a fabulous website. You and I are connected on LinkedIn. There's so many platforms where we can connect, but you tell us and I'll put it in the show notes.
You bet. Well, you're right. I mean, we're in all the major podcast apps. I actually have my own Genealogy Gems podcast app in the for iPhone.
Yeah.
So if people want a dedicated app, we're on YouTube. We're on everywhere. So really, the best place to go is genealogygems.com.
Yes.
That's my website. You can also get there through lisalouisecook.com because that's where we kind of consolidate everything together. So you can tap into all the free videos, the free podcast. If you want to become a member, you can get involved in the premium podcast and our full length training classes. Everything we do
Yeah.
comes with a cheat sheet.
Yes.
So if you listen to something and you think, oh, I'm in the car, I can't write this down, you don't have to because
Yeah.
members can also download cheat sheets for everything with all the notes because we know that people are trying to soak it in and they want to
Yes.
take it home. And we want them to be successful and to do something actionable.
Yeah.
So genealogygems.com, it's the perfect place. I am on social media, not super, super active. All this kind of keeps me
You're
busy.
busy.
And I do write for Family Tree Magazine here in the
Okay.
United States.
Yeah.
So I have a column in every issue, and I do produce their two podcasts. So you can find me if you just put my name in any of these search engines.
Yeah, well, look, I'll make it easy. I'll put some links in the show notes.
Thank
Lisa,
you.
thanks for sharing. I know you and I were chatting before we hit record, and I think, one of the reasons I wanted to get you on is because at some point in our lives, we can be inspired to be curious about genealogy. There's reasons, or,
Yeah.
there's people we know who are into this, and it really is fascinating.
Well, the thing is, we all had to study history in school. And what really connected for me as a young child was wait a minute, I have all these people in my family that I didn't even know about. And you know what? They're part of American history, they're
Yeah.
part of European history. Um, we have been part of it. In fact, world history is made up of each one of our individual families' stories. So why wouldn't you want to know what roles were played and what characteristics were handed down to you? And of course, you can do the DNA research. So it's a fascinating world, and it's really inspired me to ultimately also want to tell my own story. And I hope that this will encourage anybody listening to not only look for their ancestors, but take a time to tell your own story because
Sure.
you're the only one who knows it.
That's so true. That's awesome, Lisa. Thank you so much for joining us here and keep podcasting because, I think you're going to get some more listeners after today.
I sure hope so. Thank you so much, Joanna, for inviting me. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
It has been great. Thanks, Lisa.